things, or I'd heard different things about how Ed bawled like a schoolboy whenever his mom passed away, and that's not usually the behavior of an adult his age.
No, and that's as I said in my book, when his mama died, he lost his mama and his first piece of ass, and his only piece of pussy he ever had. That's my, I don't think he ever slept with anybody else, and so he definitely was crying for somebody who he was in love with and he was having sex with, and who knows what that did to him, I mean, you digging up dead bodies and he's trying to put, and have sex with them. I don't believe that. I just don't believe it. I don't think there was that much Vaseline around. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I have not thrown out your website, and of course it's on our website and all those things, but I wanted you to go ahead and throw out some plugs for your stuff. Just so people can find your stuff, aside from the people who are smart enough to listen live and maybe win a book.
Right. Yeah, my website's www.timothymarkpresents.com. That's timothymarkpresents.com. And one of the things I'm working on right now with another author is a guy by the name of Alan Anthony. He's sending out a book called Attack of the Killer Bitches. And that's going to be an awesome story. I mean, you take Twilight and turn Twilight into like a hardcore porn slasher flick. That's Attack of the Killer Bitches, And I think that's going to be something that your fans are really going to like. And so, but also, like I said, I'm reading the Bible a lot, and I want to do a Bible film, and it's going to be just as horrific as any of the horror films out there. So,
I'm glad you touched on that, because one of the things that I liked about your writing is that, you can go out there and read your typical serial killer book and things like that, and they're all kind of cookie cutter. I mean, you're pretty much getting the same perspective unless it's fiction. And yours, you could tell, was written by a different person than usually writes these books. Usually it's a psychologist, a professor, somebody like that. And of course you're not any of those things, which I found more interesting than, in a lot of cases, those guys who are considered experts.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I do just as much research as those guys do. The only thing is I'm not going to sugarcoat it so people can respect me and if I'm a professor, right, I'm going to have to sugarcoat my story so that my colleagues are going to not think that I'm a nut, right? Well, I'm not going to do that. You're going to get it in a way that you're not going to get it in other books. And I appreciate you saying that. I mean, I really do. I appreciate you picking me for this. I mean, that's pretty awesome. I think what y'all are doing on y'all show is helping keep horror alive, and I think we need more of that.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where we look for people that can identify with us. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we go the other side, too, with the psychologists and things like that once a month. But, it's always cool to get somebody from the horror community that kind of shares the same loves as us. But you took it a step further. You've gotten to write about your loves. And can you kind of talk about how, you talked about how you had PTSD. Do you think that your writing has helped you with that at all?
Yeah, it has. A lot of people won't admit it. I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. I do see a shrink. And, because, I mean, once you do 6 deployments, of course, you're going to have some kind of mental issue, right? So I do see a shrink. And, one of the things that she says is that my art, my writing, and my films and stuff, that they help me to not kill. If I can kill a character or I can write about death, then I'm not out there in the street butchering people, right? And so, it's probably not as fun, but hey, it keeps me from doing it.
And that's always one of the things that I've said about horror is that, I can sit there and watch Jason Voorhees brutally slaughter a bunch of people, and that kind of sates my bloodlust. You know what I mean? Because we all have it. It's all deep down there. And if I can, kind of turn my brain off for a couple hours and escape from reality with something like that, then, that all the better. And that's why I always get annoyed when people say, oh, well, they did it because of the movies. Horseshit. The movies is what keeps people from doing these things. Or, as they say in Scream, it makes killers more creative. Can I
put out there one more other thing? One of the guys.
Yeah, man, you got 10 minutes with us. Go ahead.
One of the guys that helped put me out there in the entertainment industry is a guy who played Officer Dorff in the first Friday the 13th film. And
Yeah.
Ron Milky's his name, and he's like a, you know, I'm as close to him, you know, so he's kind of like a dad to me in a way. And I will tell you that Michael Bay and them, Brad Fuller, they're getting ready to do another Friday 13th film. And if the fans could, you know, I would love to see Ron cast in the movie as a lieutenant or something, you know. The only person that they've extended the offer to was Betsy Palmer, who just passed away, to even be in the new film. But I think that you should bring back and pay respect to people who set the standards. I mean, you know, back in the day for us to have these legendary films, you know.
Mm. So has he ever quoted you or quoted the movie to you in just in passing in a humorous way? Because he has some pretty quotable lines from the first movie.
Oh, every time I talk to him, he does. I talked to him yesterday on the phone, and you know, we was talking about this, and he said he called Michael Bay, and you know, Michael Bay didn't. Michael Bay's response was he wanted the younger faces in the film, right? Well, my whole thing is if Michael Bay's listening to this, dude, man, we respect the horror community, man. Just because you got the money to buy the rights to the film and to do it, you're not doing the horror fans any favor, you know. And so it pisses me off that Michael you can cast Ron as a lieutenant. If I was doing the film, I would cast him as a lieutenant, have Lieutenant Dorff, and yeah, he has some very memorable lines when he was acting with Kevin Bacon. You know, Ron Milky to me is you know, he has such a small role in the film, but everybody still remembers him. You know.
Yeah, and it's so funny how serial killers and horror are so closely related. And you brought up Michael Bay, so I'll swing it to Leatherface here, since this is kind of the kickoff of our Chainsaw retrospective. What do you think of the Texas Chainsaw remake? Because me personally, I think of all the remakes, even though I'm a Friday the 13th guy, it's actually my favorite of the four major slasher remakes. Keep in mind, I'm saying remakes, not the originals, but.
Well, I'll tell you what, when they did the remakes, the first two remakes a few years back, 10 years ago or whatever, I liked those. The last film, the Saw's Family or Chainsaw or whatever, I think it could have been done a lot better. I think they're just trying to get greedy and put a little bit of budget into it and then make as much profit as they can. So they don't, I think the guys that are making these films just don't give a crap about the films, you know? And, it's really not good, you know. So I like the original remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I love that. I thought that was good. Can you hear this idiot yelling in here? But,
slightly.
Yeah, that's my. You know, this would be a good time for Ed to be around. But anyway.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. You know, since it's an Ed Gein show, I'm going to go ahead and ask you, since we talked about a movie about Ed Gein, if there were to be a movie made about Ed Gein and, you know, the sky's the limit, you can have whoever you want to play Ed Gein, and I'm talking about people that are still alive, that is. Who would it be? If you could just throw out a few choices or just maybe one if you want.
My last 3 deployments I did with a chief in the Navy, and he was actually a Navy SEAL who stepped down from the SEALs. He actually wanted to go out of the military, but they ended up putting him in my command. But he could be an identical twin to Ed Gein, and that guy, the fact that he's actually took lives, you know, and he's got that look that Ed had. I mean, he's just got that look and the same walk, the same mannerisms and everything, and that's who I would cast, probably, because, you know, I would cast somebody who's actually took a life and could actually, you know, and I know he has. He's killed a lot of people. I mean, you know, I did 3 deployments with a guy, so that's actor wise. No, there's not an actor out there. I mean, who would you think?
You know, I started thinking, and why I cannot think of his name right now is beyond me, and you'll remember it the second I say it, but the guy who played Green Goblin in the original Spider-Man, for some reason that hit me while you were talking.
William Dafoe.
Yeah, there you go. What about William Dafoe? If he were to dye his hair, I think he would be interesting. He's got the crazy eyes, and that's what I thought of.
Yeah, he would make a good Ed Gein. I agree with that. Yeah, for sure. Definitely make a good Ed Gein. I would make the girl that Ed killed a little more beautiful looking than what she was, you know. I mean, that's another thing. You're going to go out there and kidnap a girl and kill her. Why not pick a pretty one, you know? I don't understand.
You gotta stylize it. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you this. You talked about, some of the guys that served with you, and I'm just going to ask this about the last few minutes, and you talk about whatever you're comfortable with. I just want to ask you, though, since you saw things that most of us have never seen, never been a part of, is there anything that you could talk about on this show that, I don't know, had an impact on you while you were there?
It is actually, and there's actually cannibalism going on to this day, in Africa. And what I will say is, I witnessed that firsthand. And I mean, some of the stuff over there with them cooking bodies alive when they're still alive, throwing them in the fire. I mean, there's hardcore. We were not given permission to interfere with that, so we were in a spot where we could have stopped it. But then we had to watch it, and when you have to watch stuff like that, it warps your mind, man. And I mean, that's why, I'm seeing a shrink now. It's part of the reason, because I've seen cannibalism in real life. It still happens. It's happening in Africa, and it's to witness it in real life. At first, you might show some emotion, but then you just get used to it, And that's not good when somebody gets used to something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of thing that you're not supposed to get used to. I mean, it's not, you know what I mean? That's almost not human to be used to something like that. I mean, I guess it depends on the era of society that we live in. But, like if you're in the 1400s, I guess you're used to seeing like things like that. But in our modern day, it's not something that most of us have seen or are used to seeing. So, I mean, I can imagine why you would need to, talk to somebody about that every so often. That's totally understandable.
And the hardest part, what people don't realize, is with the veterans coming back, and I'll just say this: the Vietnam era veterans had a difficult time dealing with killing people because they were raised in a different time. We were raised on Leatherface and Jason Voorhees, so for us to go over there and do it, it wasn't a problem. We can actually talk about it, and that's why so many people who served during the time I did can talk about it, because we don't really have a problem with it. The problem for us is to come back home and not kill. You see? Because if you have an altercation with somebody, how do you do that without killing? Yeah.
So it's basically like turning off that switch, right?
Yeah, I mean, the switch can come on very quickly, and, I recommend everybody get into some kind of treatment when they come back, because, I waited too long for me to get into it, and, so that's a whole different story. But, yeah, you definitely, for the veterans out there, they definitely need to get into some kind of therapy.
Well, Tim, man, I tell you what, you came on, you were awesome. You gave us a lot of info about Ed Gein that maybe people hadn't even thought about before. I know I didn't think about some of the things you brought up, and I'm glad I kind of brought up some things for you to think about or find out about, too, if you can. And maybe we can touch base down the line. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good, man. I would love to do it. I'd love to come back on in October when y'all doing the vlog story, if you want to, and just give me a call, let me know, and I'm assuming I'll be hearing back from you soon about the winners of the contest. So.
Yep, you'll hear from me within the week. We're going to announce it next week on this show, but you'll hear from me before that, okay?
Okay. Well, hey, I appreciate y'all having me on, man.
You're the man. All right, Tim, you take care, and, keep doing what you got to do to stay well, okay?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt, man. Y'all keep up the show, man. I appreciate what y'all doing, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, take care, buddy.
All right, bye.
Later on. And everybody, that was Timothy Mark. You can go to his website, timothymarkspresents.com. Vic, are you still there, sir? Vic, maybe.
Yes, I am.
You may not. Okay, there you are. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, man? I fell out of that fella.
Yeah. He
No,
pulled no punches, did he? And that's what I like to hear, because there's a lot of people that come on this show, and Jeff Burr was one of them, and I love Jeff Burr, don't get me wrong, but he was kind of squeamish about the serial killer subject with us. But nope, Timothy Mark had no problem.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my friends, man. As soon as you told him he was allowed to cuss, then he just let loose, and he just said Ed Gein should kill his wife, I think, but at this time, Another call coming is our professor we are waiting on.
Okay.